the process. It's a workshop to talk about the lock replacement, the process of closing down what I refer to as the rental portion of the front desk. And you know, then we'll have phase 2, which is somebody after hours monitoring the fire panel, but providing no other services. So I know that there were some questions from the staff. Lisa at one point sent us a list of this is what everybody at the front desk says that they do besides making card keys. We had a document going on Google Drive. I know there were some questions about maintenance requests and a lot of things. So I asked Greg and Scott to sit down with our staff and brainstorm some of those issues, some of their concerns and points that they raised, so we could have this workshop just to sort of identify those things and hopefully problem solve them. And if not, you know, at least name them so that we can work on solutions. So I'll start with Greg or Scott. What things were identified by our front desk staff and maintenance as things that we need to figure out as we're heading into replacing our locks, I think in November timeframe?
All right, can you hear me, Stacey?
Echo. I think it's on 2 phones.
Greg, Scott?
Yep, I'm catching my breath here for just a sec.
That fix the echo.
You got a big echo, Scott. I think it's because you're on 2 phones.
Yeah, I'm trying to disconnect on one.
I'm trying to find my notes. Give me just a second.
Stacy, Chad just got on.
Let me find my notes.
Yep, I see. Thank you. Hi, Chad.
Good afternoon.
We're just getting started here. Greg and Scott are having a little technology difficulty, but they're going to start with some of the issues raised by our staff or by maintenance, or things that we need to address when we close the rental portion of the front desk. Then I want to talk about sort of the order that we're going to go in with the locks, what our locksmith is planning to do, and any issues outstanding that we need to figure out.
Perfect.
Greg, while you're
Stacey,
getting,
is that better?
let's
Yes.
see, Scott.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's better. While you guys are getting your ducks in a row, Cheryl, tell me the timing from Matt, our lock guy. Is he starting end of October or in November?
We were going to roll that out once we had the estimated ship date from the locks and coordinate that with Gary and everybody on when that will be best. We don't have a time picked out yet. He thinks the
Okay.
locks will be here at the end of the
Yeah.
month. I mean, the end of
Yeah,
October, sorry.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was the general timeline, though, at the end of October, early November,
Okay,
depending on when.
perfect.
You ask breakfast or something.
Okay, Greg and Scott, are you guys ready yet? Or you need me to hit
Well,
somebody?
we can start with just talking through I mean, we covered the lock boxes last week with Heather, and maybe I'll just start bringing everybody up to speed on that. As you know, we've got I don't know how many rental programs, technically 3 or 4 plus a bunch of owners. Heather did indicate a concern with not having a lockbox and felt like it would put renters in a very bad position if she did not have a backup plan, which obviously is part of the front desk closure as well. We did identify a type of lockbox. Stacy, I sent you a picture of the key box. We had suggested Heather come up and just make sure it fits and everything, but we did identify a type of lockbox that we, would approve. I also had Bobby go around and look at potential locations. What we basically settled on, Stacy, was kind of the lower left-hand side of the door panel. The door frame, I guess you'd call it, opposite the door handle, to install that lockbox. Heather's got about 75 units under her management. I know we had Brian Martinez ask in our board meeting whether or not owners could have one. And I think, just for consistency's sake, if an owner wants one, they can buy one. And, I just think we'd want Bobby going forward to install them just so that they're consistent or Bobby's staff. But in the initial install, we would ask Heather's handyman to put them in. We were told that none of the other rental companies were requesting the lock boxes, which I find a little surprising. Vacasa said they are just exchanging keys. I don't use Vacasa. I don't know anything about them other than the fact that they mail me something every damn week. So, they're talking about just having keys. But that's kind of where we left that. As far as the lodge, and I'm sorry, as far as the lodge, we decided against a central location on each floor just for security reasons, not being able to monitor those service centers, and making sure that we had a similar installation in the lodge in that lower left-hand side of the door of the door frame. So that's consistent with with what our call was about. We did let Heather know that she would be responsible for paying for any charges associated with the install of those or the programming of those with Matt. I know she called Matt to discuss that. Shell, here, I don't remember off the top of my head if she responded after she spoke to Matt. I think she did.
She said that she was reaching out to Matt. I don't know if she did. I did want to point out just two things that she told Scott and I, is that she's never had a failure with the locks, and these locks are supposed to be pretty smart in notifying on low batteries and if there's a problem with the lock. And the other thing was we told her that we weren't Scott and I weren't approving it, that she had to get all the information together for the board to approve it, so that she understood that. But she's not ever had to use a backup lockbox. I think that's probably why the rest of the property managers are not feeling they need one, because these locks are pretty efficient.
Well,
Yeah.
if Heather's never had a problem with these keypad locks, then why is she looking to get lock boxes on all of her properties? What's the point?
She's worried about a late arrival, somebody coming in late at night, flights delayed, and not having any way to get into the property. She has no staff. So, she's got no way, and she lives in Mancos, if I recall. So to get somebody a key would be problematic for her.
Okay.
I just don't like the idea. Frankly, these lock boxes, from what I understand, are 2x4 and kind of thick too. And having those nailed into our common elements, sprinkled around 75 units of the property. And without them ever being needed, it seems like she is using our common elements to problem solve a business problem that belongs to her. And I just don't know if I'm comfortable with the lock boxes. I'm just picturing them, either on the outlying complexes or down low, especially if they've never been needed. It seems excessive, and that she's the owner of this problem, and Taco is not the owner of this problem.
Can I interject something, Stacy? I did get a call today from an owner up in High Point. He has 2 different units. He wants to put a lockbox on, and he does not rent his unit. So you're going to have people who want to put a lockbox up there. He lets members of his family unit occasionally use it, occasionally some friends. So he does want a lockbox up there. You're going
I
to
just don't know if I like that idea. I mean, so when I asked my property manager, who, yeah, she's not a Heather, she has about 15 units up at Tamron. She said lock boxes are antiquated and they look antiquated. And here we are trying to upgrade our property to more modern technology, but we're gonna have a lockbox. I think if I want to let somebody stay in my unit, I can give them the code to get in. Or if I have a boat lock, I can have them come pick up a key. I just, you know, I just don't, I don't feel comfortable with the lock boxes being all over. What if somebody, there's a security matter too? Somebody can, the lock boxes don't look like they're super secure. When somebody breaks into one and gets in a unit, or there's snow and you can't dig out the lockbox. I don't like the idea of hammering these lock boxes up and down our hallways and next to half of our front doors. And we don't let real estate agents do lock boxes right now. I don't know that I'm comfortable with this, guys.
Ditto. I agree with Stacy. And then I saw Chad nodding his head pretty vehemently. I mean, if somebody needs to get into a unit, you just give them the code and then change the code later. I'm in agreement with Stacy. I don't have a horse in the race, so I don't want a lockbox.
Guys, it's not a function of the code. It's a function of the lock failing when somebody arrives. That's her concern. If the code works, lock works, then they're fine.
Well, we're putting in X number of brand new locks, and they're going to have brand new batteries. The idea that we're going to have a failure is remote. I mean, I don't know how long the batteries last, but that's my thinking. And I'm with Stacy. I don't like the idea of these things being installed up and down the halls and every which way on the door jams. And the security thing I hadn't even thought of. You get a nice big crowbar, you can pry the darn thing off of there in about 2 seconds and go somewhere else, break it open, take the key back, and then get into the unit. Yeah,
You know,
that's
as far as the batteries go, if it's a rental unit, it's got housekeeping services, and there's, my understanding is there's a warning, a blinking light or something that warns if the battery is getting low. It would seem to me that the housekeeper can be instructed to look at the lock every time that they clean the place.
Or
Yeah,
Heather could
with the
actually
warning,
check.
just so you guys know, it gives the warning. You're able to set up notifications on your phone with the app. So the property managers would be able to get notification on their properties. So they would be able to check those, so they would know when the batteries were getting low and need to be replaced, or if there was an issue with the lock, from what I've read.
Battery's the only issue.
Or Heather could check the functionality before her renters check in. You know,
I
with
don't think.
software.
I think I don't care one way or the other, to be honest with you. I am concerned that somebody could be stuck outside and we have no way to get into a unit. I mean, unless there's going to be a master code, or the night crew, the night maintenance crew would be able to access through a master code of some kind in the event we had an emergency. If we have that,
Key, Bobby, they have the key if we had to. They're not going to have a code, but they
will have a key.
People will have the hard key, but that'd be something we'd have to talk about as well. And then that'd be a charge back to the owner or the property manager.
Yeah,
no, I don't disagree with that. As long as we can get in, if there's a problem, we need to be able to get into the unit. If it's 3 a.m. when somebody shows up,
It opens every lock in this property, won't they?
yeah, our master key will open all the locks. But you know, we got somebody here till 11 o'clock usually, but 3 o'clock in the morning, they're going to be waiting until somebody gets up here. You you know, but the chances of it happening hopefully are pretty slim. And, you know, one thing about the lock boxes, the maintenance side of it, you know, if we screw these lock boxes up and down the lodge, you know, these walls in the hallway is all wallpaper. You know, if somebody buys a unit, the box comes off. You're wallpaper in that section of the hallway. It's not a little repair. If they drill a hole in the knockout on the side, just keep it in mind.
I think Heather needs to, you know, think of a plan B that doesn't involve hammering lock boxes all over our property. Maybe she could retain a person on call.
Yep. Hey, and we already I think we solved this thing by saying the maintenance crew has a. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of a move. Oh, we've got a master key. So rather than just deliberating this thing, can we just bring this thing to a vote? And
No, we're not voting. We're not voting today. It's a
Welcome to the board, Chad. Can't do
Stacey,
that.
I'm new to this thing, but Stacey, I support you 100% because we don't need to be putting lock boxes all over Tamaron.
I just think that Heather might need to, you know, consider retaining an after hours on call person or, you know, some solution, because these lock boxes, while they're not the big lock boxes that used to hang from doorknobs, you know, they're still sizable, and you hammer them into the wood, then you hammer them out of the wood, and it takes its toll on our walls. And I think that this is going to be something Heather has to problem solve, and then that she has these locks on a lot of other properties and has never had a failure. There's no history of failure. Now, if she said, oh, every 5th lock fails once a month, then that'd be something worth considering, but she's never had a failure before. And so I'd like to know what other options she can think of besides lock boxes.
If I can
I'm happy to deliver that message. I don't care.
Bob has confirmed is that if there was a 3 o'clock in the morning 911 emergency and the ambulance was called, the knock box outside the units, the key inside that is the same master key that will open up every door in the place.
Well said, Mark.
I'll just repeat a couple of things. Like Scott, I don't have a dog in this hunt here. I don't care. But we keep talking about Heather's 75 units. There are a whole lot of other units, and there are a whole lot of owners who don't rent their units who may want lock boxes, because we are eliminating one of the primary means of accessing their units when we shut down the front desk.
Well, those owners should be able to give a code to people, or they'll have to figure out how to share their key with their guests.
But once again, if the lock, if they haven't been here for 6 months and the batteries run out, you know, the problem here, from my point of view, from where I sit and where the soon to be gone front desk is, Tamaron always gets the black eye. The property manager never gets the black eye when something goes wrong. That's the concern that I have. But again, I'm not gonna have one of these locks. I don't really care.
So if the battery is running low, the app will tell people. People just need to learn to be responsible for their own locks, their keys, their front doors, and they're not gonna have a front desk anymore.
And then it's not like they only have one way to get in. They have the code or they have a key. I mean, who travels and doesn't bring the key as backup? Even if I was leaving my house in Arizona, I would have the key in my car.
I've had owners come up here and tell me it happened last week. An owner came up and I left my key at home. Okay, so we have a copy. We let him in.
But we're trying to get rid of that service, which is causing us to be a unwarranted property, which is causing all kinds of problems for anybody that's trying to sell, me included right now.
Yeah, we got to lean on personal responsibility here. We're taking away the front desk. Most properties like ours don't have a front desk, and they have the same set of issues. Well, it's got to boil down to the folks and taking responsibility for making sure they have a way to get into their unit. Sans the battery dying. Well, then you got the key. So, yeah. I mean, in the meeting, in the board meeting, Brian Martinez brought this up. Nope, he doesn't let anybody else. He just wanted it just in case the battery failed. Well, carry the key in your pocket. I mean,
Guys, like I said, I'm fine delivering that message. I don't care one way or the other. I had to come down 4 times last week when I was up there to get a new damn Onity key, and I was staying
Those
in
are a
Gam.
problem. I hear you on that,
First
Scott.
time I went back, it had canceled. I'm like, Jesus, it's ridiculous. So, I'm sensitive to people not being able to get in, obviously, but I agree it should be personal responsibility, and I can deliver that message to Heather and make sure that she, at a minimum, changes the communication that she has with her renters, to be very clear that there is no backup.
Hey, I want to interject real quick. I said, I'm having a Monday. I was pretty organized until about an hour ago, but what is speaking to me during all of this and the meetings Scott and I had with staff, et cetera, is what's our transition? There's got to be some type of transition that works for everybody. And I'm the guy drove up, would have driven 18 hours and I forgot my key at home. And I'm so spoiled. I know Gary's got a key. And so that's how I got in and what I use. So I'm guilty. And I guarantee you, and I get it, personal responsibility, all that good stuff. But there's going to be a transitional time. And how do we help our staff and ourselves get through that transitional time?
Well, Greg, they can't get into their units once we do the rollout, which is going to be emailed like Gary does with the roofing project. They're not going to be able to get in there unless they come to the front desk and get the key. And inside they'll have information depending on how they did it, on whether they need to reprogram a master code on their lock or whether they just have a hard key. But I mean, at the front desk, Gary can simply say the front desk will no longer have access to your unit. You will need to have a key and your code. And that's the end of it, because we are not going to have keys and codes at the front desk after this. Once it's done, we're done.
Cheryl, I get that loud and clear. And it's not going to be a long transition. Having talked to staff and then other owners, and then kind of as we've gone through all of the lock stuff, it's, to me, a lot of this is clear as mud. And so I go back to my question is it a transition period of a week? Is it a month? As we're transitioning with the front desk gone, and I'm just asking in terms of, does anybody have an idea of that time period?
Hey, well, real quick, what if, and is there a charge, if you will? So I drive, now it'll be 26 hours from Atlanta to Durango, and I forgot my key. But we have a master key. So what is the charge? Is it $100? Is it $200? Is it depending on what time I get there for somebody to unlock because we have a master key?
We should be using our master key to unlock the door. That we're taking that element out. They'd have to call a locksmith, just like you would.
Oh, well then that's even perfect. Then there we go. Answers that question.
I think that a couple of things here, transition period. We obviously are, as Cheryl said, we're waiting for the timing to come in from the lock order. When will the locks be here? We're thinking early November timeframe when this is going on. We have a front desk staff. I mentioned in an email today, Greg, that the holiday season is going to be a time when a lot of owners come to property for the first time, also a heavy renter season. And that might be heavy traffic as far as when people are picking up their keys, either from the front desk after hours or from the office during hours. We've said that you have to sign out for your keys when you pick them up.
Right.
And so we will have to have people available, especially since this is coming up right on the holiday season. I think we're going to have somebody available to receive owners and give out those keys during that period. But otherwise, the specific questions we're asking are why we have this meeting. And I think that one of our communications to the owners is going to be, you are going to have to be responsible for yourself. What do I do if I bought a cabin up at Electra Lake? What would I do if I forgot my key in Plano? I'd have to get a hotel and call a locksmith.
Right. And say, this is, in when I'm using the word transition, and I'll shut up after this, but
Don't shut up. We like hearing from you, Greg.
well, and this is so corny, but for me, what Tamaron has always been is this welcoming, folksy, man, you forget something, you need something. Our staff was Johnny on the spot. Somebody was always there to help. And I know we've got to be past that. Believe me, I know. So I guess my deeper question in the transition, and it's like anything else, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think if we do a communique that explains, in detail to our owners, whether they're full-time, part-time, folks that have their units that they rent or whatever, I think it's crucial that how we explain it, and we'll probably have to explain it a couple of times. So I'm just sharing that because it's like, man, during that conversation, this just kind of hit a nerve, only because for so long it was just this kind of, hey, you got a problem? Call Gary, call Lisa, call now Bobby. And I think there's people that kind of like and depend on that. And all of that still can be in place to a degree. So that's the only reason, because during all of these conversations with the locks, I mean, I followed where we're going to end up. It's okay, how do we, because I think in this case, as the front desk goes away, we do the deal with the locks, as we're doing stuff with our fire alarms, there's a lot of things going on. And not everybody at Tamaron pays attention. I just don't want staff completely overwhelmed for 30 or 60 days.
Well, I'm
So,
sure they don't want to be overwhelmed too. So that's a good point. Can I ask you to start a list of good communication topics
well,
during the time?
definitely,
Because I've actually put this out there several times. What are our communications,
I know.
our series of communications going to be? Right? We have to have them. What one has to be, and I think this will be on Gary, this is we're about to change the locks on, High Point, this unit number to this unit number this week. Let your property managers know. And then once the lock has been changed, confirming that your new lock is on the door and your key is in the office, make arrangements with me to pick it up or pick them up. It'll be 2 keys. And when we pick up those keys, maybe that's where we have a little information in the envelope about how to set a code if you got this lock, or the code that was preset by our locksmith, how to change it. Here's a YouTube video. And I think Cheryl, our locksmith, said he would explain to people, like maybe have an owner meeting where he would explain how to use the app and how to set the new codes. Did I
Yeah,
dream that, or did?
No, that's true. And he also said, I've been talking to him about how we're going to get the information to the owners that have the codes. And like I discussed with you, seems the smartest way, because they're going to have a key and nobody can get in their unit without having a key for the first time. We would have the code and all of the instructions written in there in little pamphlets we'll put together. Well, Matt will put together so that the owners have the information on how to change that master code. And then after that, once he's gotten all the locks done, then anybody that's having problems, we would do a workshop so he could come out, and it would actually be Matt's workshop where he was able to go to units and help everybody at one time who was having a problem with any of the programming on their locks and help them with that. So he's already put that out there.
I think that's great that he's doing that for us. And so what happens to people who rent their units? I know, and Scott, you've talked to Heather, but my property manager has said, let me know as soon as your door is done, I will go up there. I'll get your keys. I'll have them for you the next time you and John come, but I'll go in there. I'll set up the hub. I will set up your code and she'll take care of all of that for us. Because to get that functionality, you have to have a hub in the unit. And the property managers provide those. And then I think our communication also needs to be, how do you do a maintenance request? Because you don't come to the front desk anymore. I know our website has a maintenance request, but there will be some emergency after hours maintenance. And so Bobby, I thought we could talk about what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't. You know, my TV remote is broken, doesn't. My bedside lamp burned out, doesn't. But my water heater is blown and water's covering everywhere, that does. And so we need to figure out how people make maintenance requests and what the maintenance team is going to do for each type of request that comes in.
We definitely got to figure out, you know, what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't, but, and then we got to figure out how we're going to get hold of somebody, you know, in the middle of the night when that situation happens. I mean, I think that's on the Google Drive list is one of the issues of how we're going to do that.
Right. And I would actually say that, how do you get a hold of someone now after 11?
Well, we have an on-call list. If somebody's on call 1 week, you know, we'll call them, but you know, we've talked about maybe doing a cell phone that we pass around to whoever's on call.
Right.
We can do it a couple different ways.
And they only do texts late at night. What do they call?
Some future things I'd like to add to the list are like, what do we do for people who are adding lock boxes that aren't supposed to? You know, what the fine is or the fee to remove. Also, getting people to report their guests so we can report to Glacier and pay Glacier for the fees.
So I think that's part of the communication, Greg. Another bullet point, and that would be, we're still using Bookerville for all of our rentals, right? And so property managers or people who do their own submit a reservation with using our front desk form, and they submit it to front desk email. We could keep that email account open. It doesn't have to be someone sitting at the front desk. It could be Carlos in the back office. And so that would make it more seamless for our property managers and our owners who rent. They just would do the same thing they've always done to make their reservations. Now, even today, we have those sneaky owners who put the key under the mat and try to let people rent without paying that $30 fee. And I think we'll probably have those again, but
I think that's going to get worse, Stacy. We're giving them it's going to be really easy for them to pass a code along. They at least used to have to come to the front desk and get a damn auditing.
They're not going to have any amenities though at Glacier because their name's not going to be on the list.
Yeah.
But not every renter requires that, right? I mean, Heather requires everybody join the club, but not every individual does that.
I don't think so. So if those individuals want to go to Glacier, then they have to pay $10 a day per person.
Right. If the Glacier front desk does not have the people on the list, someone staying in 212, then they can put it on those guests. Go back to your owner and you did not report that you were going to be here, and
right.
And they then report it and get in trouble, and we add it to the list and charge them.
sort of out of our hands, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's a big revenue loss to us if, because it's a pass-through fee, except for what, $1.25 or something?
Yeah, right now it's $2.
And at least this time, having to track it all.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a pass-through fee, so
but since we're contracted to do it, at least we've got to at least make the effort.
So we'll continue with our current process. Once we have the new locks, we're making that effort. We still have people submit their reservations and we still charge that $30 fee against the accounts and report it to Glacier. But if someone is renting under the radar, we don't have reservation police who can capture that.
You might want to keep in mind, we can do away with the front desk at Tamron HOA email address because Carlos has his own email address. If Carlos is working Monday through Friday and he is assigned to take these reservations, that still leaves 2 days a week where we don't have any recordings of reservations. I'm not sure how we're going to handle that.
Can't Carlos just put any in the system on Monday that come in during the weekend?
Well, if there's last minute reservations, last minute people showing up that aren't in the system,
You also have 2 years of someone has to be there on the weekends anyway, because of the alarms aren't finished till 28 or whatever. So we've got some time to think about that.
So Gary, I'm still confused as to so say that I make a reservation to arrive, it's Friday night and I'm arriving Saturday. What is the problem? So the Glacier Club won't know about it because it came in over the weekend? Is that what?
correct. That's correct.
Okay.
We send a report to Glacier Club. What is it, Elisa? Around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or the arrivals for that day. So on Saturday and Sunday, there will be nobody to send that arrival report.
In the future.
Are these reservations on?
After 2 years, maybe we ask Glacier to help work with us and plan in 2 years' time what they would have us do. And who knows what'll happen in 2 years.
And that's true. But as Elisa said earlier, we are contractually obligated to be sending them this stuff. And, history suggests that maybe they'll be cooperative about this. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
Is this reservations made by property managers, or are these under the table reservations made by individuals that we're talking about? Question.
Oh, these are regular reservations made.
Through property managers.
Well, maybe through property managers, maybe through the owners themselves, doesn't really matter.
But
Because we've got a whole lot of VRBOs, we've got a whole lot of owners who manage the units themselves.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Just something to think about and keep on your radar, because I think we're fine for now.
And I'm gonna be the contrarian here, but these are things that you wanted to talk about, and we have to have a plan for all these things. Number one, as far as people having the app on their phones, we offered people 4 choices. And option 3 was to get the keypad lock without the Z-Wave. If somebody doesn't have the Z-Wave, and there were a bunch of people who chose option 3, they're not going to have the app on their phone. Secondly, I think, Stacy, you and I talked about this. I think it's a big mistake to not have a key for each unit in the office. I just think it's a mistake. Looking down the road, that's going to be a problem. And I see no reason why if Matt makes 2 keys per unit, why we can't keep 1 key in the lockbox, and if an owner or a guest or whoever needs the key, we make a key and charge them 10, 15 bucks every time. I
There's
think,
owners like me, Gary, that don't want the front desk to have the key. I don't want anybody but Bobby and BHP to be able to get into my unit. If that lockbox gets broken into, then my key is able to be gotten, and we can't say that it's security proof. I mean, I and my husband should have the keys to my unit. I have 2 keys, one for me, one for Ty.
Yep,
Oh.
same here. John wants a key, I want a key. If the reason that you enter units is for emergencies, and that's handled by maintenance, it's not handled by the office staff. And people need to be responsible for their keys.
look, I don't care. I really don't care, because I'm gonna have my key and everybody can do what they want, but I think you're gonna run into problems. But
I think we just cross that bridge when we get there. We have a master key for every unit. If we run into a problem, we can always address it, but I don't,
Communicate,
I think,
communicate with owners.
And I think key,
And the
I
other
mean,
thing-
it's crucial, kind of the things we've talked about, Greg, as you're putting your list together. I mean, the thing about how the property managers are going to make sure that they have access to Glacier, and the weekend thing with Carlos, once there's nobody at the front desk in 2 years, all that stuff, we can start working on emails to go out. And I know nobody reads the emails because I'm getting the lock questions too, but eventually they'll, like Elisa's doing now, they'll be sent to the person who can address it one-on-one, like I've been doing and Mark's been doing with the smokes. And people they'll adjust it. We all know it's going to be a learning curve, and I'm willing to help with the locks for as long as it takes. You guys have 3-year commitment from me on the board, so I'm not going anywhere. If it takes 3 years so everybody's comfortable, then I'll answer every email, call everybody back to make sure that they understand the new changes.
And Cheryl, that's great. One of the other things, and I know everybody will balk at this, so I'll do it. There may be owners there that literally, if we knocked on their door and explained to them, or, we reached out and it's over the top and it's proactive. But I know that if we did that with many of the owners, there's probably got to be multiple ways to communicate this stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, that sure makes our life a lot easier with people understanding. So just a thought, but I'll help do that too.
So you're saying for those owners who need handholding, we give handholding?
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
doing that with helping with programming the locks. I definitely think this is a huge undertaking for everybody that we do. We make sure we're available so we can help everybody through it.
And I have a funny feeling too, that just kind of guessing with our community, is that once we start that, and we are there to answer questions, we're there to help, staff will kind of get into a rhythm to be able to help. The transitional period will go much quicker than anticipated, just because there's people that are there to help. So that's my 2 cents on, and like I said, I'm gonna be up there over Christmas, and I'll start then.
I'll be there for 3 weeks in November. I can help then.
I can help in November as well.
Lisa, I have a question. And maybe Cheryl, this is to you. What percentage of the owners are said, like Joe and I, we're happy with the deadbolt only? Is
A
that,
huge amount, Mark. I was surprised at how many people kept their deadbolt and just are getting them rekeyed.
Yeah.
People actually, I mean, kind of like what Scott said, when I was up there for the 2 weeks, my Onity lock crapped out on me a couple of times and I had to go down. I think I hear more complaints about the Onity locks not working, and so many people are glad to be switching to the deadbolt or whatever they pick, so that we don't have to worry about coming to the front desk if you're on the outlying units to get a key, because it's a hassle.
first thing I did 5 years ago was disable my Onity lock.
Mine's been disabled for probably 15 plus years.
There's working Onity locks for you, Bobby, if you need them, if they disabled them.
So the baseline here is 380 owners will have access to a key. And that's where we start this process, or 2 keys, but a mechanical key. And then we can phase them into the to the push button requirements as their situation requires. Is that a pretty fair statement?
That is, and it's a lot of people that are doing keys, some doing push button. It's mostly property managed places that are doing the Z-Wave.
But initially, there'll be a key for all.
Yes, a key for everybody, 2 keys for everybody that they have to sign out.
I think we work with this.
Knowing that, I rent Scott, you rent your unit. I think that we need to come up with a plan, and it could just be, communication. So maybe when Gary sends the email for the week, okay, these units are getting their locks replaced this week. Let your property manager know, because in a lot of cases, it's not going to be the owner coming up and picking up their key. It will be the property manager coming and signing out for the keys to the owners. So that's something that we need to figure out, because if my property manager comes, if my lock's done in December, I won't be on property, but I might have renters in December. So my property manager is going to come get my keys and also go in and set up the hub and everything else. So what do we do in those cases besides just, do I need to give the office permission? Okay. Jen Peterson with Vacation Durango has permission to pick up my keys and finish setting up my locks. Or does the front desk just let anybody sign out for keys? I don't think.
No, we've talked about that, Stacy. We've said they have to, if they're giving somebody else permission, they have to tell Gary. And remember, if it was Monday through Thursday, Gary would be there to give the keys. If it's after Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, they would have to coordinate with Gary, so the front desk knows who's coming to pick it up, and that person would have to sign for it because Gary's not going to be there.
Right.
I
So
think the other thing we have to communicate, guys, is until I had the call with Heather earlier, I had no concept of this hub issue.
mhm.
The property managers are going to set up the hub, but all these VRBO people, if they want to access, my understanding of the hub is that allows them to change the code and do some things on
Yes.
their own. I don't know that those owners know what the hell a hub is. I don't know
I-
that it's been communicated, so we probably have to think about that too.
It was in the initial lock emails, but the property managers are supposed to be going over that with their owners so that they understand it.
I'm worried about the VRBO self-renter people.
Yeah, the people who don't have a property manager, but they just rent it. So we should probably plan on communicating that their lock does require a hub to have full functionality remotely.
Does the dumb question, does the hub, if you order the Z-Wave lock, keypad lock, does that come with a hub?
No,
that-
you're done.
Order them.
Say it, I didn't hear.
No, the Z-Wave does not. The Z-Wave that works on the Bluetooth does not come with the hub. That's what Heather had talked to Scott about. The property managers like Stacy's and Heather, they'll be supplying the hubs for their owners. And any owner that wants to be able to use it remotely, it's in all of the instructions that you have to get the hub. You're able to still access it on property with the digits, but if you got the one with the Bluetooth, then you would have to have the hub to operate it remotely. I think with the Verbos that a lot of the Verbo people probably have more than one property. I know everybody I know that self rents, they have more than one property and they've got these already on there. There's probably a smaller amount of owners that aren't familiar with this type of system and aren't familiar with the hub than there are.
Yeah, they're like $250 a piece. So we probably need to get that number down, or not down, but we need to figure out what exactly the cost is and at least communicate that if people are interested, they need to acquire one on their own.
I
And
think
the
that's
property
one of the
manager-
first communications that we do is about that hub. That's a good point.
Yeah, and that the property managers will probably, well, self-rented will have to do their own, but the property managers are probably getting them at a discount. Just for Mark's answer, 163 units are either having their key changed or just having a deadbolt put on. So a great number of our property is going deadbolt only.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Okay. So Greg, you're gonna work on some communication ideas.
I am. Yep.
Thank you. And Bobby, you'll be looking into the after hours maintenance and the new process once we are fully transitioned.
Yep.
Okay, because Scott, I have a question for you. With respect to mortgage programs and that sort of thing and having a front desk, if our front desk rental program closes and the only person we have is somebody who watches a fire panel after hours, does that remove that? If that person is just there, so that fire panel that, it's at the front desk, but it could be anywhere for that function. Now ours happens to be at the front desk, but it doesn't mean we have a front desk. It just means that's where that is seated. So does that solve our mortgage condo-tel issue once we quit the rental card key check-in portion of the front desk?
Not until Joe figures out how to put a couple $100,000 in reserves every year.
Oh, is that another one?
You're supposed to put 10% of your budget in reserves, and our budget is balloon. Used to be they're putting about 100 grand in. We were right on the cusp.
We found a creative way to do that up until this budget year, but there was no way we could do it with the insurance situation. We'll have to take a look at that when we budget for 2025 and see if there's a way we can get creative again, have enough money to do that. We have to have enough funds that, are put into capital expenses so that we can borrow the money, so that we can put the money in reserves and then take it right back out. That's how we got around it before, but with our budget so trimmed so thin with very little capital expenditures, there was no way to do it. And and
I don't think our
Scott, that
financials
number, Scott, that
nothing.
Scott, that
400 grand.
Scott, that number's gone up. It's now 380,000. Not.
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay. I didn't know what the number was, but I knew it was a hell of a lot more than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, our
and right
budget
now with our reserves where they're at, we'll probably get shot down anyway. Now there is some understanding and leniency to a degree because of the insurance situation that exists. Fannie and Freddie are aware of that, but I wouldn't. Cheryl, I wouldn't bank on you being warrantable anytime soon.
Oh, no, I know. And I mean, Scott, just so you know, they ran into problems and we just extended the close date because now it's the insurance. They can't get the insurance, which I've given them our insurance agent's number so they can try and work through it all. I mean, our property does definitely have some issues that we're working through for buyers and sellers, as well as the people who live there every day.
So if
Cheryl, for your information, I think the way Fannie, there is a lot of conversation ongoing right now, but I think the way Fannie is approaching this is telling people if they can get any sort of fourth place coverage equivalent to the amount of their loan, then they're okay with it. If they can get any coverage out of their loan.
Okay.
It's not rebuild, right? Because we can't do rebuild. There's no way for for Fannie to pull a rebuild on an individual unit and gamble. But if the loan is $125,000 and people can get coverage of that, they may be able to get it over the finish line with approval.
Yeah, and I know Stacy has told me the lodge is 100% insured, so realistically, that should be one of the easiest ones to be able to get the loan through. But this lender's a Denver lender, and so it's not our in-town gal, and we all know that she knows the property better than anyone and the loopholes. I told Stacy Purgatory just lost a sale because they're having issues over there with insurance. So it's not just us, it's all the properties up here.
I wonder how in the world Cascade Village is managing that, because they are way underinsured and
underinsured. Yeah.
Their board decided to do that in order to save the money. So they likely can't get a loan on any of their units.
They've got a few places for sale, Joe.
They what, Mark?
They have a lot of places for sale up there at Cascade.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
they're coming in with cash, then, I mean, if they come in with cash, it's not an issue, but when you're trying to get a loan, it's, you know, they've got requirements.
Yep.
so Bobby, if having, you know, race there after hours is a current contact for the after hours on-call maintenance, Race is going to be there for 2 more years while we're putting together the fire system and phasing out the panel. And so what I just want to ask of you and all the staff is, as you're identifying these problems, which thank you, you guys know how it works. You guys know a lot of the flow that we're not familiar with. I ask you to also identify a solution. What can we do? You know, here's what we've noticed. Here's what we suggest. And because that's important, because otherwise we're just, you know, going to be having long calls and long meetings and long talks. But if you can identify a problem and also suggest a solution, it's very helpful, and just put it on that document. So, you know, Bobby, maybe like what you said, a phone. We'll have to put on our website after hours maintenance information, the type of problems it could be. And I missed, Mark, you had said something about if there's a 911, like a welfare check done after hours. Where is it?
There are they're Knox boxes, they're called, and they're outside the doors of the various units. Here, there's one right up there in the eaves at the front door. And only the fire department has the key to the Knox box, or 911. If they get it, that key inside the Knox box is our master key.
Okay, good. So I think that we're good. The main pieces of information we're waiting on now is, Greg, an outline of the communications, and thank you very much for doing that. Happy to contribute or brainstorm with you on that. And then Cheryl, waiting to hear from Matt on what he gets for shipment dates so that we know when we're kicking off. And then the third thing would be, and Greg, this might be something you do, what communication would go into the envelope with the keys for owners when they pick up their keys, so they know how to set their locks, and how we schedule Matt for his kind of town hall meeting to show owners how to use the locks. I think we have some really good discussion here. Scott, following up with Heather on lock boxes. Anything else?
Hey,
A
one last
question.
thing.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I got a question. Matt obviously has to wait for the keypad locks to come in order to start those. Any reason why he can't start rekeying the 160 some deadbolts?
I think we're waiting for it to be season to be over, Joe. I mean, that's the only thing, is just to, and probably most of the deadbolts are owners on property. I don't see an issue with that unless you guys do. I don't know.
I was just thinking
I
was just thinking of some things that he could be doing to get ahead of the timeline and get things done. Once those keypad locks are come in, he's gonna be pretty busy getting those installed.
Yeah,
And
that's like half the units. So
I texted him to see if he had gotten the check yet, and he was going to run to see if he had gotten it at the PO box. So he was still waiting for funding so he could get it all done. So once he's confirmed that he's able to get the order done, then I can start talking to him about possibly doing things in phases. It'd just be a little bit more work for the front office staff on having to coordinate, you know, instead of saying he's on property this certain time, starting the first wave with deadbolts only, but we could communicate those to those certain owners if we think it'll work.
I mean, the deadbolts like mine and Mark's and who knows how many others, that they don't have to do any boring. All they got to do is rekey them and turn the keys over to the front desk, and we can go pick them up. And so that could be done pretty quick.
And Cheryl, I seem to recall his total timeline was like 2 weeks, assuming he was replacing everything. Is that? Yeah. So, I mean, if he can get half of these damn things, whatever the number is, done. I mean, hell,
He's gonna
that,
get
that
this done in 2
very much
weeks.
lightens our communication load for Gary because he'll be done in a week.
Cheryl, is that
Yeah,
right?
he
He's
thinks
gonna
he'll be able to get it done pretty quickly, Joe, once he's on property. Remember, he's going in and he's banging through. He's changing a lock. He's boring, which all that stuff is really rapid.
Okay,
Cheryl, is he billing labor as he goes? So if because I thought one of the things we waited so long for was to make sure we get assessment income in to be able to.
Exactly. Yes, that
So
is,
if we start now, is that gonna be an earlier cost than we were ready for?
Yeah, it could be.
probably because
Yeah.
he's just, all he's asked us for was half for materials.
Yeah. And he should have that. We sent that money in, when was it, Elisa? A few days ago? Last Friday, was
You're
it?
muted, Elisa.
You're muted.
Thursday or Friday, I think.
Yeah,
And
so he
and
should
if I
have the
log
check.
in, I could see when the check's supposed to arrive. I didn't do that, but
He's local, so he should have the check this week.
yeah.
Yep, I'll circle back with him and he knows that I'm waiting for him to let me know when he gets the check and can get the order placed, so.
Yeah, yeah, and Stacy was right, and whoever mentioned it was right. The fourth quarter assessments are due in about 6 weeks. So that time's right with him getting going early November. So yeah.
Hey, Cheryl, at the beginning of the discussion, you mentioned something about the locks that was slowing down the sale of your unit.
No, not the locks, it's because we have a front desk. That's what Scott was just explaining about it being unwarrantable, so it's having a front
Oh,
desk,
that's
not
right.
having the money
Okay.
in reserves, yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, and
makes
just
it an
another
atypical
note.
loan.
What's that?
Just makes it an atypical loan.
Yep. Okay. Just clarifying. Thank you. One other thing too, the phones, all the phones and all the units, they say dial 0 for the front desk.
We have a lot of stuff we have to change on what you're gonna do with the front desk eventually.
Here's another one, and this is kind of funny. If with our DirecTV deal, if you're like over the weekend, the satellite signal was getting lost, and it says, wait a little while for this to correct. If it doesn't, call the front desk. That's right on the TV.
Well, the front desk is all over our DCCRs and all of our documents, so. Yeah, but one way that this was hurting Cheryl when she was showing her units, and she had several people who love the units, but they said this place has too big of a hotel feel to it. And as evidenced by you go into the front desk to get the key to go see a unit, and I think this is something we just got to push through. It's going to be best for our property, but it is a big change and we just have to keep moving forward.
Yeah, the other thing I would put on the long-term plan is we need to reconstruct the whole lobby area so it doesn't look like a front desk, but that's not something we got to deal with immediately.
I agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
about
Good call, Scott.
Gonna take some creativity there.
I mentioned that.
Elisa, we can make your and Gary's offices bigger by just walling that whole thing
Rip
off.
out the whole wall.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking we'd just wall it off and just put them in that small little space together.
No.
Bobby and I were discussing this, by the way, today.
Sitting here
Um,
around the fireplace,
This may
go
be,
out
once
front,
we have this done, this may be the opportunity to have Sotheby's move into that coffee area, which I think they want to do anyway, and then repurpose their current office. And Bobby and I were talking about ways to do that.
Well,
So-
and don't forget, when we were discussing this with Sotheby's back when Tim was here, and he made the drawings and things like that to do that, Sotheby's would be on the hook for a lot of the build out.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think they were willing to pay for it.
They
Yep.
were willing to pay for it. Julie's mentioned it again, so. Yeah, they'd be willing to pay for that, but we could definitely build that out. And yeah, a
Well, if
good
you
point.
pull that out, let them have it, and then, their current office goes back to, I'm looking at everybody who's on here. Joe, I think you're probably
Me.
the
I get that one.
Lisa, well, remember that was like a high-end clothing store. That was a store back in the day.
Yeah, it was a gift shop. They had clothing items and souvenirs and all kinds of other stuff.
Well, there were three stores.
I bought hats in there.
I think that was the one that was the next door to the south, and then the next door to the south from that was it had cream and coffee and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, just FYI, Cliffside would love to have somewhere to put a golf simulator for winter activities.
You can talk to Ty's company, their main office down the street from us. They just put in a golf simulator in the office they're building right now because they had to have it for the clients.
I'll second that one.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for today?
I think we're
I'm
good.
just wondering, does the simulator make you a good golfer, or did you just as sucky on a simulator?
You'll have to fly to Arizona and I'll take you to Ty's main office and you can play all day long and then you can report back.
It depends on how they program the simulator. They could make anybody a good golfer.
Hey, so my husband joined a golf league and today he bought golf clubs. So it looks like we might start golfing up at Tamaron finally.
Good.
Better than waiting until 70.
There went the 4.5 hour rounds.
Well, I was gonna say, here come the divots, but I'll be nice.
I'll be following the beverage cart lady having cocktails. I'm still not golfing with Elisa. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, let's keep moving forward. Please just, share your concerns, your ideas, your solutions. We have to keep brainstorming and problem solving these. And I think a big piece of it starts with communication up front. So thank you, Greg. And if nothing else, we can adjourn.
Thanks everyone for your time today.